I'm going horseback riding, so let's get it going.
All right, the purpose of today's video is to go a little more in depth about Lynne's riding. We always get a lot of questions about it. And I just thought it'd be a good opportunity to talk a little bit more. Maybe some of the things we haven't talked about before. We have talked about her stretching and about how that benefits her ability to ride. She always goes on the barrel and does some stretching. I don't think I've ever really talked about the platform that's underneath it before. It's a vibrating platform that's usually used to actually put horses on and relax their legs. But in this case, he put the barrel on it, and it's controlled by this device, and it helps to relax Lynne and relax her muscles so that she's a little more loose and she's more comfortable on the horse. Then she's brought over to a platform where they put on her gait belt. A gait belt has sort of little handles on it, little straps, so that the people helping her sidewalkers, can get a grip on her should she need some help. Then it's time for Lynne to get on cruiser. So we're on a stage, so she's higher, and they brought a little footstool over for her. And then they bring over, now notice that Lynne does use a English saddle because if she insists on using that, that's what she's used to. And she's able to swing her leg over and with some assistance, and she gets on the horse. Now, some people would be a little nervous about this, but not Lynne. Lynne has no fear of this whatsoever. Now it's time for Lynne to begin her riding. Now, it's my hope that in the very near future, I would like to start introducing some other people that benefit from equine therapy up at the Root Farm. There's a variety of conditions that people may have that benefit from this, like people with autism spectrum disorder or cerebral palsy, developmental coordination disorder, genetic disorders, learning disabilities, Parkinson's disease, Down syndrome, and of course, brain injuries and people with spinal cord injuries can also get benefits from equine therapy. Now, how does equine therapy help people like this? Well, research shows that the walking pattern of a horse is similar to that of a human in motion. And when a rider sits astride a walking horse, the movement transferred from the horse to the rider can assist in developing improved pelvic mobility. So this is just one of the things that helps Lynne. Then there's also the psychological part, because Lynne really looks forward to her riding, and it makes her so happy. So if you or someone you know has impaired balance or coordination or muscle tightness or muscle weakness, riding a horse can help you with that. See, I know personally that Lynne's condition would get notably worse if she wasn't doing something like horseback riding every week. There's not much hope of her getting a lot better than where she is right now, but she certainly could get a lot worse. And so the horseback riding really helps in that regard. Then, of course, there's the interaction with the staff up there. Lynne's a very social person. She just loves everybody up there, and she has a good time with them. And she does a lot of walking up there, too, which also benefits her. Then, of course, there's the grooming. She loves grooming Cruiser, and there's that interaction between her and the horse. And she loves giving him his treats, and he loves getting them. So that's always a lot of fun, and she looks forward to that part as well. All right, so Lynne, we've been showing people your riding a little bit more in depth, talking more about the details of riding with and how it benefits somebody with a brain injury, right? And another thing we got to talk about is your helmet.
Okay.
You've had this helmet, let me get it here.
Yeah.
out of here. We've had this helmet for quite a while, and there's a date in it that says, actually, date of manufacturer is October 2014, which means 5 years ago, over 5 years ago now, because as of this past October, it's just in the beginning of November now, it's 5 years old. And after 5 years, they have to be retired. You aren't supposed to be able to use them anymore.
Okay.
And even though you haven't fallen or it hasn't, nothing's happened to it, it's no longer usable.
So I got a black one.
So we got a new one. Got a new one for you. You want to open it up? Take a look at it and see what you got.
A black one.
Yeah. Let's take a look at that. Got a new one. New black helmet. We'll put it on later. We got to adjust a little bit. But the date on this one is May 2019. So we got almost 5 years to go on that one. And you want to try it on? And we should be good for a while. You got it? Good. Is that a good fit? Oh, you look awesome. So brand new one. So when you go riding next, you can wear that helmet. Okay?
Could you?
Oh yeah. All right. And there's another story I came across a real interesting story, a horse story that I wanted to tell people, and it's about the beautiful Jim Key. You ever hear of beautiful Jim Key? He was a horse back in the 1800s. I'd like to talk to you about. Jim Key, or beautiful Jim Key, was born in 1889. He was a stallion, but he was born kind of sick. He was quite sickly. And he was owned by a gentleman by the name of Dr.
William Key.
Dr. William Key, because I have it written down here, right? And you know, Dr. William Key was a self-taught veterinarian, and he was an African slave.
He was.
Yes, and he was a very intelligent man. He actually became quite wealthy later in life. And he was an excellent horse trainer, but he believed in training with kindness, not the whip. Now, in those years, back in the 1800s, people didn't treat horses too well.
Why didn't they?
They were considered a tool, something you used just to get from point A to B, or used on a farm for service there, and they were often kicked, they were abused, and they weren't treated very kindly. You know? But Dr. Key believed in training with kindness, and not just horses, but dogs and other animals too. He loved those animals, and he was going to train them very nicely. He nursed beautiful Jim Key to health, and he became a very strong, very beautiful horse, and thus the name Beautiful Jim Key. Jim eventually became very famous, and he became known as the world's smartest horse. In fact, they brought him to the World's Fair in 1897, and President William McKinley saw Jim perform, and he responded and said he'd never seen such a great lesson of the power of kindness before. They showed, they had a little, they would set up a tent, and Jim would perform for people. And what he did is he could spell. They found out Jim could spell, and he could do math.
How could he do a spelling and a math?
He did do spelling and math at a 6th grade level. And they actually proved this time and time again to not be it was not a joke, it was not a trick.
He was just an intelligent.
He was a very intelligent horse, and horses are a lot smarter than you think. And this guy, Dr. William Key, proved it. And there was a very funny story, because there were a lot of skeptics out there, and there were reporters out there that always wanted to try to prove that this was all a scam. So Dr. Key said, well, you can go into the tent by yourself and find out for yourself, and have him spell for you. Give him a word and he'll spell it for you. but the only thing is that you have to give him some fruit. He really likes fruit, especially apples. So you have to bring some apples along to give him. So the journalist went in the tent, and he spent some time in there. And
he didn't bring any apples.
I don't know. Well, yes, he. That's you're trying to give it away, Lynn. The reporter went in there, and after a period of time, they checked on him and they asked how it was going, and the reporter said that he's not spelling anything for him
because he wasn't giving him any apples.
Yeah. So Dr. William Key asked him. He went up to Jim. He goes, "What's going on, Jim? How come you're not spelling?" And Jim started spelling, and he spelt out Fruitless.
Fruitless.
Fruitless. The reporter did indeed forget to bring him apples. Beautiful Jim Key also played a very important role in the humane movement, being humane to animals, being kind to animals, because of his owner's training methods. They actually started a Be Kind to Animals movement. Yeah, and like 2 million at that time, back in the late 1800s, around the turn of the century, 2 million children signed the Jim Key Pledge to be kind to animals.
Wow.
And so it started changing things in America, and how people saw animals and how people treated animals. Really tells us that horses can do a lot more than most ask of them. They're a lot smarter, aren't they?
If they are treated with a kindness.
Right. Now, that reminds me a lot of the horse you ride. Cruiser, who definitely responded a lot better to kindness and rather than harsh training methods. So all the while, when I read about this story about Jim Key, I was thinking of Cruiser. Hey, if you're interested in finding more about beautiful Jim Key, there is a book available. It's called Beautiful Jim Key, The Lost History of a Horse and a Man Who Changed the World. And if you're interested in finding more about equine therapy, contact the Root Farm at rootfarm.org.
We'll see you next time on The Lynne Life.
After each ground hole, you're going to tell Cruiser to whoa, and then you're going to do a 2-point.
How do I do it?
We'll show you, okay? So we'll go over this first ground hole, you can turn a little bit right. Once you're over it, you can ask him to whoa.